Hey everyone, it is Brianna Wilkerson here. I'm a health coach, a Central Wales advocate, CrossFit Level 1 trainer, and your guide through really what does it mean to learn about your hormones, balance your hormones, and take care of your body as a woman in particular. I like to have this on the right side. And so this whole month on the Healthy Body podcast, which is one of the podcasts I host, is all about hormones, in particular, how you can balance your hormones naturally and sustainably. But in order to kind of get to the result of that, the balancing of the hormones, we need to kind of pull some layers back and ask ourselves, okay, well, what are hormones, first of all? How do they get imbalanced? Is there something that happens within our body that we are not in control of? Are we in control of some of those things? Why should we care about hormones? What is their role in our health and in our body? And really, what can we do to balance them? Because the result of not having hormones that are balanced are many of the things that many of us face. Not want that to happen. Oh, you heard a little Facebook thing. Things that many of us face are weight gain or weight management, or even weight loss, thyroid issues, which can cause slow metabolism and so much more other things, autoimmune issues, a lack of energy or energy and chronic fatigue, cortisol levels that are just whack, insulin levels that are whack. Those are two hormones in particular. Not being able to sleep, or even when you sleep, you don't feel rested, skin issues, and even more chronic things such as gut health issues, brain fog, memory stuff, all of those things. Like hormones, when they're imbalanced, can cause an array of issues and wreak havoc within our body. And often we are looking at all these other solutions without looking at the holistic picture and how hormones can be a part of that. So that is what I want to touch base on, basically for the month of September and October, and guide you through that on the podcast. I'm actually going to be doing 2 master classes from a coaching and an oils point of view on balancing the hormones naturally. And then I'm going to have a special offer that I'll share in October. Well, I mean, you could even sign up from now. You don't have to wait from October. I'll share that at the end of this, just for you to get one-on-one support to help you just really figure out what's at the root or the core. So, because I would say that I'm more of a functional health coach that really looks at the root and core of things. Okay, so I just want to give you an overview of what's happening on the Healthy Body podcast, what's happening in the business, how you can get support. So if you are on live with me or you're watching the replay, I would love for you to just, what does it mean? Temporarily unavailable. There we are. I would love for you to just say hello in the comments. Let me know you're here. And, we're talking about the menstrual cycle on this live video because that's what we're talking about on the podcast this week. And I posted something here on my page and in my Facebook group, the Healthy Body Community for Women. Basically, list the top 3 things that come to your mind when you think of menstrual health. I would love for you to answer that question below. Can I put that in the comments? I think so. What comes to your mind? What comes to your mind when you hear the word, think of the word menstrual cycle? Because, we all have different, I'm going to read some of the ones to you, actually. I think it's just going to be great to read some of them to you. I know there's more that I haven't had a chance to check. Hey, Stephanie, great to see you. Great to have you here. Great to have you here. So, let me not. I don't want to mute myself. But some of the things, someone named it Berthine, like he named her right ovary Berthine. And you know what's funny about that? Side note is that, I don't know about you, but when I am going through the different phases of my menstrual cycle, because there's many different phases, where is it? I actually know when what is happening from what part of my body, like what ovary, what fallopian tube. And it's just interesting because you just become really well aware of your body over time as you start to kind of look at the root care of things and all that sort of stuff. So Someone said, I'm just going to say what some other people shared. They shared, someone said, yay, I'm done. Someone said, clearish stage. And that is a beautiful oil that helps women with that time of month. In general, helps balance estrogen. Someone said pain, bananas, teenagehood. Someone else said painful, inconvenient, and emotional. Pain, misery, bad. A new beginning, an opportunity to shed the negativity of one month and take a pause to welcome a new one. I love that reply, first of all, because I'm going to kind of share a little bit about the menstrual cycle and the different phases and how actually your menstrual cycle is a 4-phase thing that many of us associate the period with the menstrual cycle, but that's only one portion. And the period is actually that stage where you are shedding, you are letting go, and you're welcoming in something new, right? So just fascinating stuff. So I would love for you to share what words come to your mind when you think of the word or hear the word menstrual cycle. Just whether you're watching live or watching the replay, let me know. So I just want to share a little bit about my journey. I don't want to take too much time, but I could go on and on about this topic because I think it's one of the I've learned a lot of different things in my last 4 or 5 years of this, but as I've learned more about hormones and the women's body and menstrual cycle, my heart is just amazed, it's upset, it's sad, it's all these different feelings. And I just think this is something that can really set a lot of women free. And so the menstrual cycle, I've been really learning a lot of stuff from our guest podcaster, Lisa Hendrickson Jack. She's on episode 107. And there's a couple other people I've been learning a lot of from Dr. Marisa, who was on the podcast last week, Dr. Jolene Brighton. She has a great book called Beyond the Pill. But particularly Lisa, I've just been really trying to, what does it mean to chart my menstrual cycle? What does it mean to learn what my menstrual cycle is telling me about my health, actually? Not just to prevent pregnancy, not just to get pregnant. Actually, the third thing it really does help with it. It's a 5th vital sign, as Lisa talks about. I'm just going to kind of show you. So I listened to this Lisa's book that came out in January called The 5th Vital Sign. I listened to it, but it was so great that I had to read it, to see it, to underline it, to take notes. And it's a lot of the material from here is going in my book, hopefully. And then I recently got this last month, actually, is her charting workbook that you can actually, you can see for month here. There, where you can learn to chart. And here's a sample chart. Let me show you a sample chart. This is a sample chart right here, where you're just learning and you're using 3 key things: basal body temperature, your temperature right when you wake up in the morning, your cervical mucus, because ladies, that discharge you've been seeing is normal. Well, there's some discharges that aren't normal, but most of the time, I don't know about you, but there have been times where you felt wet, where you've seen this white substance. That's cervical mucus. And then the third part is cervical position. And so really, that's what Lisa and what a lot of people call the fertility awareness method. Now, let's just talk a little bit about menstrual cycle for a bit. And if you're on, say hello, let me know you hear the comments. I had a question for all those watching. What are the first few words that come to your mind when you think of menstrual cycle? Would love to see below. So we all have experienced our menstrual cycle in various different forms. And for some women, it's a very hard time. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of cramps. There's a lot of mood swings. There's a lot of symptoms, and there's called PMS, premenopausal syndromes we feel. There's a lot of women who struggle with a lot of different health conditions down there, like polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is you have little cysts on your ovaries that cause a lot of pain. There's women who have struggled with stuff such as endometriosis, which is kind of scarred, built up tissue in your endometrial lining. There's obviously cervix issues. There's yeast infections. There's so many things that we've all struggled with down there. And I love, I love that the different speakers on this hormone series have just said, listen, that's not necessarily normal. We have all accepted all of like the extreme pain. The extreme thing is normal. Now, yes, you may have pain. I have pain, but I can tell the difference at this point when this is abnormal pain and when it's just a regular pain of my body releasing the sac, right? And that's just because really there are so many things that affect your menstrual cycle, and your lifestyle, all that. So let me just kind of share a little bit about the 4 phases of your menstrual cycle, why it's important to chart, how it can be a fifth vital sign, and how it can actually help you with balancing your hormones. So your menstrual cycle, it exists in 4 phases. And a lot of this you can find in a lot of books on the menstrual cycle on period, but in Lisa's book, Fifth Vital Sign, which I'll link below, it actually has 4 phases. So day 1 of your menstrual cycle is your period, where you start the bleeding process. And that typically, I can't remember exact dates, could last 4 to 7 days, 3 to 7 days, depending on the person. Then there comes this period where we would call your follicular phase, or follicles, where like literally your body releases a follicle, which your ovaries in, and which is eggs, and it works and it grows it, and then it releases. Ovulation is 1 day when your body releases the egg to be fertilized. Now, in this follicular phase, which is part 2, what you call pre-ovulatory phase, your body produces this thing called cervical mucus. And really what happens is your body is increasing its estrogen in its body in preparation for ovulation. And estrogen and progesterone are the two, kind of one of the 2 of the main hormones that work here. And they do a lot of different things for your body. But estrogen prepares the sac and all that, all that good stuff. But your cervical, what happens, you have cervical crypts in your lining, endometrial lining, that like with the estrogen, it starts kind of working together and it produces this mucus. And why this mucus is actually very important is it is this cervical mucus that when you approach ovulation and you're trying to have a baby, which allows sperm to stay alive. Fascinating. I'm talking about this on public social media, but sperm cannot stay alive in your vagina, ladies, without that cervical mucus. It just can't. Your vagina is like acidic, all that sort of stuff, in a good way. And so the cervical mucus, the discharge you're seeing, allows that to stay alive. Now, ovulation is kind of the third part. And what is so fascinating, and maybe you've had good education around your reproductive system, maybe not. I've just been learning a lot of things. Is that you can only release an egg. Your egg only lasts alive for about 12 to 24 hours. And so guess what? It is false that you can get pregnant on any day of your cycle. It is really only about a 5 to 8, depending on how long your cervical mucus is around, which is typically about 5, 6, 7 days, that you're fertile. The rest of the days you're infertile. Fascinating, right? So what does that mean? So the cervical mucus, and so it's like anytime if a woman is trying to have a baby, anytime that she and her partner, whatever, it allows that to stay alive. So when the egg releases, ovulation happens. It can be fertilized, and it goes back, and then pregnant. Well, it has to hang on in the sac for a bit, implant, all those things. So, but then right after ovulation, it's this post-ovulatory phase called your luteal phase. And what is fascinating, that ovulation can happen on different days. Ovulation, the day changes. So if you hear that, hey, you can get day 14, 15, like, no, that differs for each person. And actually, it differs depending on the cycle, because there's many things that could affect the timing of ovulation. Stress, traveling, sleep, nutrition, exercise, like all these things that we talk about, ladies, digestion, toxic load, all those things can affect your menstrual cycle, but also your ovulation. But what's fascinating is that your luteal phase, so from ovulation to the time you have your period, your luteal phase, your post-ovulatory phase, is roughly 12 to 14 days every time. Fascinating. So you'll know if you're tracking to see when you ovulated, then you can see when you're having your period. It's fascinating. But also, when you see all this, it's just better able to help you track certain things. So, those are your 4 phases, all that sort of stuff. But when you're charting, now the benefits of charting, And I think I'm only like 3 months into charting, right? So I'm new. Lisa would have a lot more great stuff for Fertility Friday, and I'm going to make sure to tag her and put the episode here. But when you're looking at your temperature, which your temperatures will be slightly lower during your estrogen preovulatory phase and higher after, because you have more progesterone, which helps prepare your sac, all that sort of stuff. So your body temperature raises. So by tracking your temperature, you can see there's like a formula type thing, like your temperature dips. Typically, ovulation happens around that time, and then you can start to see when it raises a certain temperature, sort of like 3 higher temps over your last 6. You can say, hey, maybe I ovulated on this day, and then you can start to track your period. Why is this important? You're like, Brie, I don't have this period anymore. Well then, okay, well, maybe this doesn't apply. Or maybe you're like, I do, but I don't want to have kids. Or I am using hormonal contraceptives, which actually, some fascinating stuff is that when you're using those, you're actually having kind of like fake bleed, like you're bleeding, but it's not a true menstrual cycle because you haven't ovulated. Because the whole point of hormonal contraceptives is to tell your body to not release an egg. I just geeked out. I've been learning about this for 2 or 3 months, so I'm just giving myself space. Hopefully this best to you. So really 3 main things that kind of even Lisa talks about in this week's podcast episode in regards to charting. It helps you for women who are like, I don't want to use hormonal contraceptives, I don't want to use anything, I don't want to have a baby. It allows you to prevent pregnancy in a natural way while you're in tune with your body and its cycle. It's about 99-something% effective or something like that if you learn it and use it right. The second thing is it allows women who are trying to have babies be able to conceive now that they know that there's only a certain fertile period. And third, again, it can just tell you a lot of stuff as a vital sign. So your vital signs are typically, the 4 other ones are your heart rate, your body temperature, blood sugar, heart rate, body temperature, blood sugar. Let's see, what do you do when you go to the nurse? Your heart rate right here, your body temperature, your respiratory rate. Man, what's the 4th one? Blood sugar. Blood sugar. That's it. Heart rate, body temperature, blood sugar. Okay, well, guys, there's four vital signs, and I know the 4th one. But anyways, but for women, it is your 5th vital sign because it can tell you, like Lisa shares in the podcast, like she found out she had a thyroid issue. She had no symptoms, but because her temperature were lower than it should have been in the preovulatory phase, she was able to find that out. And so there's just a lot of great information we can tell about our body when we are charting, or we're tracking more than just our period. We're tracking, again, these 3 main things. And you can track other things like exercise, ovulation, pain, headaches, all these sort of things, but breast tenderness, all that sort of stuff. But when you're really tracking your basal body temperature, your cervical mucus, and your cervical position of your cervix, because it changes when you're fertile and it's closed when you're infertile and it's open when you're fertile. You'll just be able to understand all this a little more. So I think it's fascinating. I think she talks a lot even about what a normal period or menstrual cycle looks like in her book and in her materials, and how it isn't supposed to be hard. It isn't supposed to be struggle. Now, many of us may have concerns, but how do we best care for our bodies through these other lifestyle factors, the things we talk about on the Healthy Body podcast and in my business, 7 pillars? How do we take the right supplements? How do we make sure we're getting the right macro and micronutrients? All of that to really help us no longer be at war with our menstrual cycle that people have told us that it is bad, it's hard, it's the work of being a woman. And come on, it's the thing, we harbor life in us. So we have the ability to bring life into this world. That's amazing. But yes, there are different health concerns that have been wrapped up with it. So I just really want to encourage you, if you've really started to and you've all experienced it at some point in your life, your menstrual cycle is a burden, I really just want to encourage you to kind of let's just open our minds and maybe we can rewrite that story. How can we start to see the menstrual cycle as a gift to us, a gift to this world? And also, how can we start to just look at what could be the root cause of some of the issues that we face around our menstrual cycle, and so forth. So So yeah, there are many hormones involved, and how does charting help your hormones? Well, if your estrogen or progesterone or your cortisol, your insulin, all of those major hormones in your body are out of whack, it's going to show up in your cycle. It will show up. Your testosterone, it will show up in your cycle. And so I just, and it also just will show up in the rest of your body, right? So I just really want to encourage you to check out this week's podcast, episode 107, How to Chart Your Menstrual Cycle as a Fifth Vital Sign with Lisa Hendrickson Jack from Fertility Friday. And just really listen to her. And just, she has her own podcast, Fertility Friday. She has a Facebook group, and of course her amazing book. So you can link them all. I'll link them all in here. That episode, which has all the links in there. Just listen to it. Let me know what you think. She's just someone I've been really blessed to learn from, and obviously having the podcast as well, and have learned to embrace my menstrual cycle as a gift. And yes, it's painful at times. Yes, it's a burden at times. But how do I take care of it, and it will take care of me? And as we wrap up, I just wanted to share briefly about 2 opportunities to get support. I will be doing 2 master classes. I'm trying to figure out if I'm doing back-to-back or week by week, depending on October's busy month. But really about what are hormones? What role do they play in the body? Why you as a woman should care about them? And then also, what are the main ones that we should care about, and how do we balance them naturally through these 7 areas that I talk about: nutrition, exercise, stress, sleep, digestion, toxic load, mindset, habits, and then some other stuff. But one of the key ways I have balanced my hormones, which I didn't even realize I was doing that, but they've helped me, is essential oils. And so I'm going to be leading you through an essential oils masterclass webinar around essential oils for to balance your hormones. And so if that interests you, I say sign up for the wait list. I'll put that in below. It's maybot345.com/hormones. But I'll say this: the best work and the best way that I can serve you is one-on-one. The podcast, these videos, all these are great resources. But you're not able to discuss with someone your unique concerns. I was talking with someone last week who just struggled with different thyroid issues, different energy, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, we were just able to kind of say, well, maybe this is part of the problem. Maybe this issue or this thing could help, because you were able to talk. So if that is like you're like, I'm done struggling with energy and fatigue. I'm done struggling with weight management issues. I think I might have a more serious health concern, or autoimmune issue, or digestive issue, or thyroid issue, or all those. I'm no pro at all, any of this, but I know quite a bit, and I'll be able to really coach you and help you get to the next steps, and maybe if you even figure out who to refer you to. So if you would like to just some support in learning what it means to balance your hormones naturally, and what it means to have a healthy body that you love, that you're proud of, and you can reclaim your health and body back, please book a discovery call, or just simply let me know in the comments or message me, and we can talk there and figure out a time to chat. My discovery calls are about, all right, what's going on and how can I help you? Because I have 2 90-minute intensive spots open where we can walk through with each other kind of your health history, what your health goals are, and how do you get there? How do you go from your past in your present to your future? So if that interests you, I would love for you to fill one of those spots. And so I'll link both. I'll link 3 things: podcast, the masterclass, and the intensive below, or the discovery call below, so we can kind of work together to really help you balance your hormones naturally, gain your energy back, manage your cravings, lose weight, and get to your gut health issues, all that sort of stuff. So that's it from me. Thanks so much for joining, listening, and I will talk to you later. Bye.